Welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking about the Petrified Fish Hummingbird. This knife is kind of ridiculous, right? It is beautiful, but it's very, very small. So I'm not sure that this is really a serious knife, but it's very cool. I had to test it, right? Let's talk about the testing first. Edge retention on this knife, it only did 75 cuts. But let's be honest, this is a very short blade. We're talking about 1.5 inches there. Even though it's M390, like I said, it didn't do very many cuts. So not really the best of edge retention there. Although, since it's a very short blade, that's not as bad as it sounds, right? You're only cutting with a very little bit of metal. So 75 cuts isn't terrible, but it's not great either. There isn't a lot of controllability to this blade. So as you're cutting, it's very narrow this way. It wants to roll in your hand. When you're looking at cutting something hard like a dowel, it requires a lot of pressure, and there's very little blade you can actually do it with. You can only actually really get through it with the top edge of the blade there, not even this bottom part. So not the greatest there. Cutting rope, it's a straight edge blade, so better than you would think for something so short. It actually does this pretty well, not having any trouble getting through the rope like that. So no problem there. Let's look at it on a flat surface. Flat surface cutting, you're looking at a Wharncliffe style blade, so you're really only going to hit with the very tip. The flipper kind of gets in the way. So you're getting about the top third of that blade to cut with on a flat surface. Not the best. It is effective, but you couldn't cut fruit or anything on a cutting board with this. The looks, however, on this blade are spectacular. I mean, it looks like a hummingbird, right? There's its back leg, there's its eye, there's its beak. It's got its little wing feathers on the side there. Just a beautiful looking knife. This is jewelry, right? It's not really that effective. It is a good backup, right? It's better than having nothing. So I guess there's that. The build quality is absolutely fantastic, right? Beautiful anodization, beautiful laser etched pivot, nice grind lines. It's titanium. It's a bearing flipper. It's just fantastically constructed. Just kind of an odd little knife. Size and weight on this knife are obviously very small. Weight, right about an ounce. 1.1 ounces on my scale, so very, very lightweight. This is a Bradford Guardian 3, right? It just dwarfs this knife. Here's a Rake P108. Tiny little guy, right? Very small knife, very pocketable, very concealable. Just not very practical. My conclusions about this knife would be that it's fantastically beautiful. It's something you would buy for the looks and not the performance. If you love the way it looks and you want something of that size, absolutely go for it, right? But don't get this as your primary EDC. It's just a little too small for that. It's a bit tough to close there on that small frame lock. So those are my conclusions. I am going to disassemble it just to show you the internals. But again, you don't necessarily buy this for the internals. You buy this for the beautiful looks and the fact that it is, despite being jewelry, an effective knife. I would put this in the same category as something like the Bestech Strelet, right? It's mainly jewelry that also happens to function as an effective knife. So let's get to the disassembly. I'm going to see if I can do it without taking the pocket clip off. Here is the back bolt there. Here is the pivot. Everything is T6 on this knife. There we go. I think this pocket clip bolt is structural. Let's take that out too and see if that helps. There's a little tiny stop pin that fell out here. I'm going to have to find where that came from. This little stop pin, this tiny half pin that fell out, goes in the bottom of the pocket clip here to help retain it. So this is where that little pin came from. So here is the blade. It's on ceramic bearings. Here is the back spacer. It's bolted to the other side with these bolts. There is no titanium washer underneath the bearings on this one, so that's a little odd. Again, probably this is just not meant to see that heavy of use, so it's not expected to have a lot of long throws, a lot of fidgeting done with this knife. You know, I probably would have put them on there anyway, but it's very narrow, so there's not a lot of room. They're probably saving space. And they did not recess into the blade here with the bearings. Again, very thin stock. You don't necessarily want a big recess in that blade when it's already so small and so thin. So there are the internals. External stop pin, you know, decently nice build for a knife that is so small and so beautiful. So that is my review. Hopefully that is helpful. And enjoy this really cool knife.